We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.
We did it. We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.
We did it. We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.
We did it. We did it, Joe. You are the next president of the United States. That was hilarious to me. We did it. We did it, Joe. That was funny. That's why I had to put it at the beginning of this video, because that cracks me up. And then seeing all these people reenact that. We did it. We did it, Joe. That was funny. Anyway, I wanted to go ahead and talk about this election. I certainly had no interest in talking about it a week ago. Okay. Matter of fact, I recall, because I was so, like, the day of the election, my stomach was in knots, just knots. I was just like, oh, I'm sick. You know, and I didn't want to say nothing to, like, the people at work, because, you know, I already knew where they was at, where their heads was at, right? And what they was thinking and what they were voting for, right? So I was just like, let me just go home. And when I got home and I guess the election results started rolling in, I was like, okay. I'm one of those people that, I know ignorance is bliss sometimes for me. So I just didn't want to know at the time. So I turned it all off, actually. I just turned it off. Because, and I think what it was for me is that I just honestly felt in my heart, for real, that this country was going to reelect Donald Trump. Because I knew that no matter how much shit, how much bullshit, how much ignorance he has spewed and he has put out there in the ether, how much he has broken this country as far as, like, you know, mishandling everything going on right now with, you know, with the pandemic, that people would still put his ass in office and vote for him. And I was just that afraid, right? And so instead of watching the results, I actually just turned on Netflix and ended up watching, like, the entire second season of Cobra Kai, like, all night long. I like Cobra Kai. That's a whole nother conversation. But I ended up watching Cobra Kai, and my cousin who lives in Florida, she texted me. She's like, well, he got Florida. And I was just like shocked. Like, yeah, right. As if we didn't know that them Florida Cubans was going to come. Of course he got Florida. I knew that. But, yeah, I just didn't watch it. And so the next day we saw that it was still at a standstill. Then the next day, and then Saturday, finally they called it, right? I was annoyed by the fact that AP, the Associated Press, kept calling, like, a state that the rest of them didn't. I was like, listen, do he got Arizona? Do he not? Because as far as I'm concerned right now, they still ain't technically called Arizona. The AP had already called it for him. So Joe Biden was up like 253 before everybody else was called. It was just, like, so aggravating to me. And I was like, listen, until everybody get on one accord, I don't even want to see. So finally Saturday, Pennsylvania came in for him, and it was called, and people rushed out in the street, and they were dancing, they were happy, they were joyous. And then, you know, people had to rain down in the parade. People had to get on, like, you know, y'all know what y'all happy. Like, look at y'all crying. I don't know why y'all crying. The only person that I was annoyed with crying was Van Jones' ass, because I can't stand. He's like, democracy is, you know, that, I cannot stand him. But the regular people, I said, give them their moment. Give them their moment. In my opinion, this was never about Biden. It was never about Biden as much as it was about Trump. They didn't want Biden. They just didn't want Trump. That's really what this was about. So I wasn't willing to rain on somebody's parade and be like, why y'all so happy? It's like it was like the scene out of The Wiz at the end when the witch was killed and everything, and everybody came out dancing in the street. Can you feel it? You know, that's how it felt for a lot of people. So give them that. Now, reality will sink in, and they'll realize that the Democrats got lucky. They did. Because I still think to myself that this election was far too close for a man who bumbled an entire pandemic, had said some racist shit and a litany of other things. It was way too close. The Democrats got lucky, as they always do, off the backs of who? Black women. Now, people don't want to always have that conversation, but it's true. It is absolutely true. And the Democrats are lucky that Biden was running against Trump and not somebody else, because it is possible that another Republican could have gotten in office, because it's a whole conversation we can have about Democrats, which I'm going to touch on some of that in here. But nonetheless, I'm not necessarily going to take the approach like, oh, well, it was the lesser two evils. We either had shit or piss to vote for. I don't necessarily see it like that. Okay. I'm not necessarily an optimist all the time. I'm really not. But I don't necessarily look at it like it's the lesser of two evils either. The truth of the matter is, Biden, whether you love him or hate him, or you're indifferent, can stop a lot of the bleeding that is taking place that Donald Trump still had stuff on his agenda to do. And let me explain that. There are people out here that may not necessarily understand, because people were so obsessed with the personality of Donald Trump, the cult of personality, and what he has created here. You were overlooking the fact that while people sitting here on CNN and MSNBC and Fox talking about something he just said today that was stupid, or he said this day, or he said that day at his rally, you forgetting the fact that his people are still putting shit in place and creating policies and ramming things through Congress because the Senate had the power. People forget about that stuff, and you cannot forget about that stuff. While we sitting here worrying about what he said this day and that day, he still is signing executive orders. Like, so people was too worried about every little thing he said. Yes, it was dumb as shit. He was just doing a lot of stupid shit and saying a lot of stupid shit. But while you was looking over there, distracted about what he was saying, his people are still putting things in place that could be in place for a long time. And I look at it like Biden can at least, or his administration can at least stop the bleeding. Donald Trump signed a lot of executive orders. Biden can come and reverse that, just like Donald Trump reversed a lot of President Obama's executive orders. As a person in education, I'm glad to see that Betsy DeVos is leaving. I cannot stand that woman. That woman knew nothing about education, and she was harming it. She was doing a lot of harm to a lot of different systems in place. A lot of these systems are broken, yes, but she didn't make it better. She was actually pulling resources and pulling things away from public education. And I'm one of those people that care a lot about that. Okay? Donald Trump had introduced something called the patriotic education or some bullshit like that. He was doing that to counter the 1619 project that was supposedly going to be integrated into American education. Now, if you don't know anything about the 1619 project, basically, I'll just give you a basic, synopsis of it. It's basically teaching about the origins of slavery and how slavery has basically built this country. A lot of white folks don't want to hear that, especially a lot of these wealthy white folks, because they don't want to be reminded that that's how they got their money. That's why they have generational wealth right now, a lot of them. Who wants to be reminded of that? A lot of them don't. So Donald Trump has been threatening to withhold or take funds away from schools that would dare to teach it. That is what I care about. Those are the things I pay attention to. So while somebody's sitting there worrying about what he said today, what dumb shit he said today, I'm looking at it like, well, he about to take, he's the same HBCUs that was sitting there around the table like, oh, hey, Donald Trump, we love you. He's now threatening to take money from any school that would threaten, that he would even think to teach the 1619 project. That's the kind of stuff people need to pay attention to. They really should. And to introduce the patriotic education or something, as if patriotic education wasn't something we've been doing like forever. It's called U.S. history, right? So just stuff like that I care about, right? Absolute stuff like that. So people worrying so much about the top ticket and not thinking about the down ballot. The down ballot was important too. Georgia is about to flip blue. And Georgia could actually give the Democrats 2 more Senate seats that they need to control the Senate. They need that, right? Because, well, again, people looking at the top ticket, not thinking about the fact that here you have the Senate who decides a lot of this shit. Hell, the Senate is who confirmed this last Supreme Court justice right before an election. Now, who would have thought that? Who would have thought something like that? But the Senate decided that. The Senate is what decided that kind of stuff, right? So it is important for people to look at the down ballot and look at the other people are voting. But the truth of the matter is the Democrats got lucky. They keep getting lucky off the backs of black women, and black women, listen, they, like I said, they got lucky, but and even now, when you listen to Biden's, first 100 days in office or what he gonna do, I'm telling you, black folks, like, listen, Donald Trump was a mess. He was. But I hope that the Democrats realize that they got lucky because a lot of folks was not feeling the Democrats. And I can't necessarily blame them for that, right? I cannot blame people for saying, I just can't keep giving them my vote. I cannot blame them for feeling that way because they have been used and abused for far too long by these Democrats. I'm not saying that the Republicans are any better, but the Democrats specifically pander to black people. They want black people vote, but then who be on the agenda first? He talking about getting rid of, the immigration policies and all this other bullshit. Doug Jones in Alabama, who black women specifically put Doug Jones in a Senate seat in Alabama, and his ass lost, and he deserved to lose. Yes, I'm saying it. Doug Jones, a Democratic senator from Alabama, lost his seat because black women put him in office, and then when he got there, he didn't do shit for him. So he deserved to lose it. So I'm hoping that this puts these folks on notice that black women ain't gonna keep saving y'all asses. You have Eva Longoria out here talking about the real heroines of this election are the Latinas. And I'm just thinking, you could have just said, thank you, black women, because that's exactly who did it. How do you think Georgia flipped blue? Black people got out there. Stacey Abrams got out there and pushed until Georgia basically is blue now. So thank a black woman for that. Thank a black woman. Now, let's talk about this whole fraud thing. Now that the election is supposedly coming to a close, although I knew that they were going to have to end up dragging Donald Trump out of that house kicking and screaming, Melania will probably be really happy to just go. I saw a moving van out in front. She probably already packing her shit. She's ready to go. Okay. But Donald Trump is not going down without a fight, and we should have known that. We should have known that he wasn't going down without a fight, which is why for weeks now he has been kind of calling like, oh, they gonna steal the election. It's gonna be fraudulent, and that has actually seeped into the mind of a lot of folks. And I'm just surprised that I hear a lot of folks out here talking about, well, there has been fraud. There has been fraud. There has, where all these ballots coming from. And I'm just thinking, are y'all serious right now? There's always a tiny percentage of fraud in an election, right? A tiny percentage where maybe somebody didn't just walk up to a thing, but maybe they mama, got a ballot and she passed on or something like that, and they filled it out for her anyway. That kind of shit, right? Matter of fact, let me just tell you, at first I was going to do a mail-in ballot. So I had requested one for the state of Illinois, and I got it, and I had been sitting on it. But on the first day of early voting, I went over to where they vote where I live, in my county. And they was like, oh, well, we see that you have you requested a mail-in ballot. I'm like, yeah. They was like, well, did you fill it out? No. Well, you have to destroy it. Okay. And then I voted in person. I came home and I got rid of it. So that being said, there may be a percentage of people that did that, right? But if I recall, Donald Trump got up on the podium at one of his rallies and told his people that they're going to steal the election through mail-in ballots. They're going to try the mail-in ballots are fugazi, they fraudulent. But if you are going to vote, my people, don't go do both. Mail in your ballot and then go show up. Did he not tell people that? That's the fraudulence of it. Had I did both of those, that would be fraud. I'm willing to guarantee you that a lot of his people attempted to do that. And guess what happens to those votes? They're voided. So he told his people, first of all, not to go do it. He told his people that mail-in ballots was bullshit, so don't go. So why are people shocked that the mail-in ballots are leaning Democratic? He told his people not to do it. Like, how is that so hard to understand? And I'm seeing all these people having all these conversations. I'm like, what are y'all talking about? If anybody committed the fraud, it might have been his own folks that attempted to do both because he told them to. Hell, they would jump off a fucking cliff if he told them to do it. So why are y'all shocked that fraudulence or fraud may have happened in an election? It does happen in every election. That is true. But I'm willing to kind of put some money on the fact that I think that some of his people probably did it because they were far more desperate in this situation to please him and to do both. But like I told you, I showed up and they said, you got mail-in ballot. They saw it immediately. I went home and tore mine up, but how many people didn't? So if there's any fraudulence, I think it's more along the lines of that. I think that people requested ballots, they showed up to vote, and they still sent in it. So that's an automatic void. They cancel each other out. And so your vote don't count. So you know what? And even if there's a tiny bit of fraud, which I still think it always is, that it wouldn't change the numbers that much. It just wouldn't. So, that's kind of all I have to say about all of this. I'm glad that it's hopefully coming to a close. I don't know if it's going to come to a close easy because, again, this dude is not conceding. I don't see Donald Trump saying, okay, I got licked. It's the end of it. He's just not going to go that easily. All right. So it's funny how it's fraud when it's states that you're losing. But when it's states that he won, he didn't say shit about those. Right. So it's like, come on now. We can't. Are we really that stupid? Are we really that stupid? But anyway, I'm happy for the folk that feel relieved, but there's work to do. And you got to hold these Democrats. We got to hold the Democrats' feet to the fire because I promise you this. They're going to get in there and ain't shit going to happen for the very black women that put them over the top. They're not going to do shit for you unless you listen, I hope that they understand that black people have to get to the point where it's like, you know what? We quit you. We are leaving you. You don't treat us well. You say you're going to do this and you don't do that. Just like a man. Like, listen, I'm leaving you. You said you was going to do this for me. You said we was going to go out last night. You said we was going to do that. You said you was going to give me something for my birthday. And every single time it come around, I'm sitting at home and I ain't got shit to do. I'm dressed up with nowhere to go. I quit you. They're going to have to get to the point where they say, you know what, Democrats, you've done nothing for me and we're tired of it. We're tired of the bullshit. And that is the only way that they're going to get their act together. Because again, they got lucky simply because Donald Trump was the other person and a lot of people didn't want to deal with Donald Trump. But the truth of the matter is, again, this race was far too close. It was far too close. And that really should put the Democrats on notice. That the fact that there were a larger percentage of black men voting for him Donald Trump in this election, that needs to put them on notice. They need to put them on notice that they just can't just assume that people just, blacks going to show up and vote for Democrats simply because that's what we did, right? And to understand that voting is an exchange. It's not no gift. I don't owe you shit. I don't owe you shit for not doing anything for me, right? That's why I say, please pay attention in the future to down ballots, right? Please pay attention to what's going on locally in your cities, in your counties, in your state. Go pay attention to that because that affects you more than you realize, right? But I am I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not relieved. Like I said, there are things that I'm hoping that the Biden administration can certainly at least stop the bleeding on. And that's kind of where I stand on that, right? Dare we have a little bit of optimism, but don't get complacent. That's on you if you get complacent and you don't hold these people's feet to your fire, their feet to the fire. That's on us if we don't. Right? Because I'm telling you, the Democrats going to do what they always do, right? They just going to sit there and be like, well, I know I can depend on the blacks. And that's all I got to say about that. Let me know what you guys think about this election. Are you glad that it's over? I know I am. Let me know. Sound off. Leave a comment. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you next time. Bye. We did it. We did it, Joe. We did it. You're the next president of the United States.